Okay, the live stream is live. And let me just have a look at the situation there because last week it was registering. Yep, there we go. It's so cool. Um, all right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Jitsi Community Call. Um, now I'm going to start with a quick round of the table and then we can move to open mic as usual. The parts that I can that are probably the most important right now. We have this crash that started appearing um, with Chrome 58, we think. And we've been looking at that. There have been a few possibilities, but one of them, as indicated by people, was that um, Chrome might be expecting picture IDs of the VP8 stream to be overridden and to come in a nice sequence, because otherwise there's a problem with the wrapping. And that might also be, I think it's supposed to be fixed at some point, but we're not seeing that yet. So George tried and implemented picture ID rewriting in the bridge. And while we were able to reproduce the crash before on every run of our torture tests, we are unable to do so now. So it sounds like this indeed might be the issue. We're not certain because there were also stack traces containing access to stats, and also the fact that there have actually been changes in stats in 58. So we're not sure exactly how these relate to each other, but it might simply be a separate bug. The one that we were able to reproduce with automated testing seems to disappear as we rewrite picture IDs. So that's one important thing. George, would you like to add something?
No, not with respect to that issue. I think you covered everything.
Would you like something to add something on other issues?
Uh, the other, I worked on two other things last week. So one was currently, well, in this deployment, um, and if you have installed this specific version of the bridge that we're running now, like a bridge from the last couple of weeks, you might have the absolute send time header extension broken. So you you're advised to upgrade your bridges, and this affects probing and adaptivity. So if you have those two features enabled, then you should definitely upgrade your
George,
bridges.
do you know what range of versions are affected?
Um, I do know, not by heart though, so we can discuss about it. I think this deployment is broken, but I think we kind of know that already. Um, so yeah, that's and then I also worked on what turned out to be a performance issue in the bridge. Um, so now I'm working on, like, we need to increase the UDP buffer sizes and the UDP socket backlog size. We do that in our deployments. We don't do that in the Debian installer. So I'm going to update the installer to fine tune the UDP socket configuration so that performance is not affected. It's not affecting the bridge um, in a negative way. So yeah, that's my update.
Thank you, George. Another thing that we've been working on is peer-to-peer for one-to-one. This is currently deployed here. We're seeing, um, and it might be worth looking at the at our stats a little bit, but we're still seeing 42% of our sessions, um, around 40 and 50% go to peer-to-peer. I'm not sure if that sentence made sense. Around 40 and 50, between 40 and 50% of our sessions go to peer-to-peer. Now, this includes all sessions, including the Moody party ones. So, for example, normally this call should generate 18 sessions. Obviously, none of those are peer-to-peer because they cannot go that way. But then on the other hand, we on average have about 60% of the calls on Meet Jitsi as one-to-one calls, and those should be going predominantly through peer-to-peer. So I'm not sure if the percentages match right now. And that's something to look into. But in general, that behaves pretty well. The switching is very smooth. Currently, Pavel is finishing support for this on mobile. Uh, Pavel, would you like to update on how this is going?
So I submitted PRs for that already. It may take a few days probably before that's merged, but I think it looks good there. And other
Okay.
than that, we also added support to report peer-to-peer connections to Costas. I'm not sure if I mentioned that on the last call.
Oh, right, and that's probably worth mentioning. I don't know if there's anyone from Coastat here right now. Please speak right now if you're here. Karthik usually joins the East Coast, but oh yeah, there's Karthik. Karthik. Uh, yes, we're here, but we cannot hear you. Are you maybe on Firefox? Because we've seen that bug with Firefox at some points. Or maybe it's a microphone issue. Well, let me update what I know on Costats. They pushed a new version that takes post peer connection status into account. So now, basically, when we do switch to a peer-to-peer connection, we pause the direct connection. So the aggregates for call and in general for the service that Costats presents should be coherent and should be showing the right quality and other stats. Karthik, we still cannot hear you. That remains to be observed a little bit. We'll see how it behaves. Okay. There was a lot of work for a release on mobile last week, and Lubo, would you like to update us on this?
Yeah, so we released new version into the app stores, and we released with WebRTC 54 because we didn't get enough stability from WebRTC 57. So we finally released those audio only calls, brought back switching the camera from front to back and vice versa. Um, and sharing the URL. So nice features that we got into the hands of whoever is testing the app. Um, so we'll, as was previously said, we have those efforts to converge web and mobile. So co-stats and peer-to-peer are in that direction. They should land in soon, in the next 2 weeks at least. Um, and we're continuing with this week. We'll start testing WebRTC 58 on mobile as well. Saul said he wouldn't join today. He'll be focused on the mobile SDK, which should allow people to better UI component into a native mobile app and get Jitsi meet on mobile. That's from us.
And thank you for that. By the way, the audio only mode um, on mobile is something that I find very, very useful. So I'm very glad that this is now part of the release. So let's move on. Damien has been working on load balancing Gigasis in Gcofo. Damien, would you like to talk a little bit about that? I don't know if anyone hears Damien.
Nope.
Damien, are you in Firefox maybe?
Yeah, he's in Firefox and
Yeah,
I
can you
can't
join through
remember.
Chrome?
Yeah, mine crashes too all the time when I join through Chrome.
Yeah, what you can do is select your participant so that there are no switches in the picture IDs.
So yeah, that was merged, and Jigasi can join to a mock room where Jikofu use it the stats published there to balance between GGASs. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thanks, Damien. Um, Jana, Aaron, Christo, would you like to make any updates?
I
I
can.
can go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Diana.
Okay. So, not much from me directly, but I worked closely with Lenny on the um, device selection and video audio preview. So we're going to um, it's already on Meet, but we are going to push some more changes there and fixes. Um, also,
That's better.
So and Lenny have worked on audio only mode for web, and this code is currently in review and will land soon on Meet as well. Other than that, I've personally been working on the iframe API and trying to make this device settings and the dialog available in film strip only mode. And I'll continue on that, and it should be probably available in 2 weeks deployed. So that's for me.
Thank you. Christo, did you mean to add anything to this?
Yeah. So I was mainly working on like implementing a scheme to be able to add some different types of transports, let's say, that for communications with external applications. Like, for example, we have this Electron wrapper. So we are communicating through post messages with it for the remote control, let's say. Also, we have the iframe API, which uses post messages again. So now I have a PR about it, which adds one more abstraction layer and makes it possible to use another different transports, let's say like WebSockets or something else for different communications with external applications. Because, for example, for depending on what kind of wrapper are you using, you may not be able to use post messages. So this thing can help. It's not merged yet, but it's in review yet. It's in a review now. Maybe soon this week it's gonna be merged. Also, I made some random fixes here and there on the iframe API overlays. And right now I'm working for, so about the remote control, there was a authorization dialog to allow a user to control your desktop. Um, so we are trying to move that basically in Meet before it was displayed by the wrapper application, in our case, Electron. So I think that's all from me.
My unmute wasn't working. So thanks, Christo. We have recently also started an effort to try and see to try and work on cascading bridges a little bit and potentially going trying to solve multiple issues with this, such as geolocation or big conferences. It is already possible to handle geolocation with Jitsi, but you basically end up that basically optimizes where you host your conference. It doesn't do much for conferences that are actually multi-region, multi-continent. So Boris recently started looking at these things. Boris, would you like to talk a little bit about this?
I don't have much to say about it because we're in the early stages, but we're still working out what the architecture that we want to use is going to look like, but the idea is to interconnect more than one bridge together and distribute the conference on more than one machine so that they can scale well, and we can support, as you said, geolocation and potentially other use cases. So far, we don't have much to share anyway.
All right. Thanks for that, Boris. Brian is also looking a little bit into the whether or not there are any performance gains that we can make on in various places in the bridge. Many places have held up well, which is, I guess, good news. So we're now diving a little bit more into the detail. Brian also took an effort on improving the hammer. So, Brian, would you like to talk a little bit about all these things?
Sure. Yeah. So the hammer has been updated to work with the more recent version of Smack, the current release of Smack, which got rid of a 60-second delay when it was joining calls. So that's a bit better. And then it also supports now RTCP Mux and Bundle. So those are some improvements on the hammer. I also took a look at the crash. Emil, I was a little late, so I missed some of the context of your discussion. I might spend some more time on that today. We did still see a crash even on George's server deployment. So there might be some more that we need to look into there. One of the problems is that I was having some trouble getting stack trace symbols in Chrome. So we were having a hard time distinguishing one crash from potentially multiple different crashes. So I might try and get that working today so we can try and distinguish them. And then, yeah, and then if not that, then I'll be spending some more time on Ice4j performance. And I have some good test results from last week, but I'm going to wait a little bit on kind of sharing those because I've asked Boris to kind of put another set of eyes on the test bed and vet that a little bit so we can make sure that the results we're getting are accurate and are kind of analogous to what we're doing in the bridge.
Yep, thanks, Brian. Right, what the point that I was making is that we did eliminate a major. I mean, we do see greatly reduced number of crashes with picture IDs rewritten. So yes, it's probably not conclusive to talk about all of this right now, and we should wait to play with it a little bit more. But it did seem to me like rewriting the picture IDs eliminates at least one problem, because it was behaving significantly better that way. And yeah, we could. I don't know what the other crashes are, and whether or not they are the same problem. Just we're hitting it less for some reason, or if it's a completely different problem. But I guess that's what you were saying too. We have to see. Right, George, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, unfortunately, I kind of crashed, so I didn't hear what Brian said. So, but I'm pretty sure whatever he said is accurate.
That we were still seeing the crash on your bridge.
Yes, yeah. I think you mentioned it, and Brian should have mentioned it. Maybe we're dealing with multiple issues here. The stats, I don't see how the stats can be related to the picture IDs. The crashes caused by the picture IDs.
They don't have to be if we are dealing with multiple crashes. So
yes, that's yeah.
Hello. Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Is my mic working?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having this I'm going to write a very bad review about this headset. So, Boris also worked a little bit on, that's something I should have mentioned. Not a little bit. He worked on adding an alternative transport to data channels for the video bridge. So now you can also do them over WebSockets. And the reason for that is, well, it's twofold. first of all, we've been seeing a lot of crashes with USR SCTP, and we haven't been able to fix them in the library itself. We haven't been able to. It's sort of hard to get to the bottom of why exactly they're happening. And because we also had a second reason, which is that Edge doesn't support data channels, we thought we might kill two birds with one stone. And I'm just realizing now how cruel that sounds. We're not killing anything, but we might achieve with a single implementation solve two different problems. And we added support for WebSockets to the video bridge for that. Now, none of this is implemented in Meet yet. Data channels through WebSockets are usable on the bridge, and Boris is going to talk in a bit to say how one can enable them. But Iñaki Bascastillo is currently working on an implementation for Meet for Edge, and he's going to also add the support for data channels there. Boris, would you like to tell people how they can experiment with this?
Yeah, actually, I meant to write some documentation for this, but haven't done so yet. Basically, when the bridge generates candidates, oops,
Okay.
crashed again. In addition to the regular ICE candidates, it adds a WebSocket URL that includes the conference ID and the end.
As I mentioned in the chat there's a version of Chromium that's stable if anyone wants to run that one.
Cool, thanks, Simon.
Yeah, I am pinning people in the hope that their layers don't change. But
Okay, so the bottom line is that Boris is going to write documentation on how to enable support for data channels in WebSockets, and he's going to submit that as part of the bridge. And then finally, I wanted to mention that Sergio has been working on adding support for perk in a fork of Chrome, and Boris has been working on adding the necessary parts in Jitsi Video Bridge. So this is a conjoint effort between us and Sergio and Alex and Symphony. And last week, Sergio had his first successful multi-party end-to-end encrypted call. There's still a lot of work left there. Still a lot of decisions to be made. We're not even sure whether or not we're going to end up with something that's compatible with the perk specification on the IETF, because that's a tough one too in terms of well, politics mainly. So we're going to see where this entire thing ends up. But the important part is that as a community, we're getting closer to a solution that has end-to-end encryption. So so that's cool. And I think this summarizes pretty much everything that we've been working on lately. If I've forgotten something, please speak now. And if not, let's move to open mic. Are there any questions or topics to discuss?
Hi, it's Karthik here.
Hey, Karthik.
So what were you asking before?
I think I gave the update. I was asking about if you wanted to give an update on the whole peer-to-peer versus bridge stats situation, and I did tell everyone that you guys deployed a new version that is supposed to take into account post peer-to-peer connections. But if you want to add anything to that, feel free.
No, I think it's that's all in the P2P case. I want to know like whether the React Native got deployed with the call stats or not yet.
we've got a PR
Okay.
for co-stats, but it needed some work on the logging set configuration because our logging was too verbose. So the native app, including when logging was part of co-stats, would just take minutes to update UI and stuff. So we had to work on that first. I finished that work during the weekend. So from this week on, we're hoping to start merging co-stats.
Okay, so that will be great. Thanks.
Blue, don't we also have the issue where stats through React Native are generally very inefficient, and we need to fix that
Yes.
still on iOS?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
The chat is now broken for me. I wanted to share that the bug with the RTP header extensions was introduced in bridge 926, and it was fixed in 933 for the people who
Yes,
asked.
thank you, Boris.
That's all.
Thanks. Other questions?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
So I have a question, somewhat like I want to create like a scenario, like suppose like I joined this conference, I'm receiving everyone's video in low resolution, and the one I'm pinned, it's full resolution. Is it possible to stop the video bridge of sending the video for a person and only to start if I tell it to do? It's like simulcast, but not send the video by default.
We don't have a data channel message for that, but if you enable adaptivity, it's supposed to do that automatically. We have been thinking about ways to provide a more fine-grained control over simulcast in the bridge, but we haven't decided yet how to proceed and how to implement that. So that's not currently possible, but definitely. Yes, Emil?
I'm just trying to understand what the ask is exactly. Camille, you would like to only get low resolutions from everyone?
No, like I do not want to get any low resolution. Only if I click someone, I want the lower full resolution. Like what I want, it's
What do you
not
mean
to
the
send the
lower
video
full resolution?
on simulcast layers.
But when you click on someone, do you want the lower or the full resolution?
No. So when I join the conference, I do not want any video. Even though some people are sharing, by default, I don't want to receive their video. Only if I click something to receive the video.
So this sounds like the audio only mode that we have. It's not exactly what you described, but it should help you. It should get you to achieve exactly the same thing. So the audio only mode basically gets everyone, cuts all video going to you. It cuts your video, and then you go out of that only after you click on the audio only button again. Currently, this is only available on mobile, but it is our plan to provide it probably the month of May over web as well.
Okay, but this audio only mode, it's possible to start receiving video after click something.
Yeah, you just disable the audio only mode.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Are there any other questions?
Hello, my name's John from Sococo. I'm in here on invite from Brian. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, John. Welcome to the call.
Yeah, it's great. It's very informative. About this Chrome 58 thing, we're running a pretty old version of Jitsi. It's about 9 months old, and we're in the process of updating it. We haven't seen a crash like I've experienced several times during this meeting, but we have seen an uptick in impossible exception from FMJ. So Chrome is sending a lot more packets that apparently are unrecognized. I was just wondering, are those two related, do you know, or should we be looking for this crash, maybe even on our old version of Jitsi? Is it possible that it's still there?
I don't think the impossible exception is related to this crash in any way. It's something that we fixed a few months back. I don't remember exactly what it was, but
okay,
on the server side only.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, so it was impossible.
Yeah, that exception never really happened.
You deniers. We had fun with that one. Yep. Any questions? I mean, other questions? I'm going to give it. Go ahead.
Oh, just in time before you called it. Somewhere in the past few days, I submitted a PR to the Jitsi Video Bridge project. And I'm already building on top of that for my local project. So I'd like to see if what I submitted has any chance of making it into a merged state. Basically, what I did is I attached the native libraries that ship with the Video Bridge as a Maven artifact. And then I did a follow-up where I updated the OpenFire plugin, but that's of lesser concern to me. I needed a way to get to the native libraries for the Jitsi Video Bridge.
Damien, have you seen that?
No, I didn't get that.
Would you be able to have a look at it this week and see if we have a problem with this?
Yep.
Thank you.
Excellent, thanks.
All right, 10 seconds. 5. And thank you very much for joining this week's edition of the call. See you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.